Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I know, let's go. It's Tuesday. I had too much coffee this morning. Me and Garrett were out shotgunning Red Bulls in the hallway right before the show, so if I sound a little jumpy, that's why. I'm excited to have my first guest, one of my favorite guests, actually my least favorite guest, who am I kidding? Blonde Kamala is back on the James Show, who's about to annoy the crap out of me, and hopefully you can find some sort of entertainment value from it, because she has a terrible history of non-answers to my questions. Welcome back, Blonde Kamala.
James, I think what you're trying to say is that I think you love me.
No, you might be the worst guest we ever had. Okay, Blonde Kamala, I have some serious questions here. There's some terrible reporting on your husband, Doug Emhoff, and it just dawned on me. Emhoff is his last name. Your last name is Harris. Why do y'all have different last names?
Well, listen, great question, by the way. It's like a really thoughtful, insightful question that, should be answered. And when we give answers to questions, we fulfill a need for response, right? And that's what I intend to do with these responses that I give, to offer you the answer to those questions.
Wait, so why do y'all have different names?
Well, names are the things that we call each other, right?
Yeah, well, you got me on that one. I stand corrected. The reporting, though, says Doug Emhoff cheated on you, had affairs many times, got the nanny pregnant, yet you stayed. Y'all don't have any kids together. You don't even share a last name. Why not leave a guy who's so abusive? Right.
And to your point, let me just say, Dougie is Dougie, and he's going to do the things that he does, and I'm going to do the things that I do. And, and we're just going to, here's what I'm going to do, James. I'm going to stand by my man, right?
How many nannies does he have to knock up before you leave him?
Well, these are just rumors and things that people say, and
I don't think that's a rumor. I think that's a real person that came out of the nanny. I think you have a real sort of stepdaughter. I don't know what to call it.
James, you're really going to make me start laughing, okay?
Oh, well, let me change the subject then. In one of your husband's many affairs, the other report I saw this week is that he pimp slapped his girlfriend in the face. I just want to ask if he's ever physically abused you over the years.
Well, Dougie would never do something like that. He's such a sweet, lovable guy.
Dougie?
Right? And if somebody steps out of line, I might have to pimp slap somebody.
Did Blonde Kamala say pimp slap? All right, let's move on of your husband here. Let's talk about your running mate. There's been just a growing chorus of rumors on social media that Tim Walz is a latent homosexual, and not a big deal, but he was run out of the school system after having an improper relationship with an underage boy. Is your running mate a pederast?
Well, listen, let me first say that, I love Tim. He's a good guy. He's very energetic. Yes. And he has very big feelings, right? And, sometimes his actions and his feelings get away from him a little bit. And, and as far as the allegations, let's put our focus really on where it belongs, and that is on Donald Trump, right? He just had a rally where he just stood there for 30 minutes and danced with his people there. And, frankly, I find that appalling and embarrassing for this country,
I heard at that rally there were two people that had medical emergencies, so he paused the rally so they could get proper medical attention.
Well, listen, medical schmedical, right?
Schmedical? Yeah, pretty schmedical. All right. Something you announced on Twitter this morning. You said, as president, I will make sure black men can build wealth. And you tweeted that over a graphic that says Kamala Harris's opportunity agenda for black men will provide 1 million fully forgivable loans to black entrepreneurs and others to start or grow a business in their community. Do you feel like that's racist to take money from everybody and just hand it to certain black people?
Well, listen, I don't appreciate you taking that out of context, right? Because what you're forgetting to mention in that very same post, right? We're going to give them access to plenty of weed too, right?
That was in the post?
Smoke weed every day.
Loan forgiveness and weed. I mean, isn't that what every black male in America really just is looking for? I mean, I feel like, Barry and I...
And this concludes today's segment with Blonde Kamala. Turn your little evil chair around. Let me talk to Elsa Kurt. You can get away with a lot more with the comedy bit, so I appreciate you really pushing the line there. Of all the things I brought up today, these are all legit questions like that she should be asked on the campaign trail. She should be asked about her husband. She should be asked about the rumors about walls. She should be asked about, this new forgivable loans issue. So I appreciate you filling in where she's not even daring to go.
Oh, she won't even touch it. She won't even touch the absolute racism that's going on with that and the complete and utter insult to black men in America that her and Barack Obama just, rapid fired at them, essentially implying that, one, they're too anti-woman, they're too misogynistic to vote for a woman, and that's why black men won't vote for her because they're misogynists. And she's putting in her, her little list of to-do things, loan forgiveness and weed, like literally legalizing more weed. That was part of her whole thing, and it blows my mind that anyone, let alone black Americans, are looking at this woman and thinking, yeah, that's somebody I think is really, really out for our good. Crazy to me.
And for those of you who aren't all over social media like myself and Elsa, that was the other thing Kamala had tweeted this morning is no one should go to jail for marijuana possession or something like that. Or for smoking weed.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah. So these are half jokes, but they're all based on a kernel of truth, which makes it so compelling. How do they find you outside of the show?
Best place to find me is elsakurt.com, across social media as Elsa Kurt Official, or The Elsa Kurt Show. I'll pop up all over the place with those names.
All right, thank you very much. Blonde Kamala, Elsa Kurtz on The James Show once again. And coming up next, I'm going to give you a little more details behind that, the couple of tweets that she floated out this morning. Kamala Harris says she's going to provide forgivable loans for black entrepreneurs. First of all, if it's forgivable, it's not a loan. A loan is something you necessarily have to pay back. The other isn't that kind of racist to make a program that excludes people based on the color of their skin? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. 800-288-9227 if you want to jump in. I would like to hear your thoughts on this tweet that came from the Vice President of the United States. The text of the tweet says, as president, I will make sure that black men can build wealth. Just black men. That's it. Over a graphic that says Kamala Harris's opportunity agenda for black men will provide 1 million fully forgivable loans to black entrepreneurs and others to start or grow a business in their community. Let's break that down, because we're all aware that we are just a few days away from the next election, where we like 21 days, and the politicians have a tendency to want to buy votes. If this is such a good idea, this is the same thing you can throw at anything she proposes in this last month. Why didn't you do it for the last 3.5 years? But this one's a little different. This one has a tinge of racism in it. What do you mean? You're a million different black entrepreneurs are going to get, well, look, and the first problem you have with this is the race. The second problem you have with this is the squirrely language. Forgivable loans. Yeah, that's not a loan. The nicest way, another synonym would be grant. A more proper synonym would be handout. To black entrepreneurs and others to start or grow a business in their community. To start or grow a business. This could go to someone who already has a business or someone who doesn't have a business. So that is, again, every black person in America. Why even put that in there? To start or grow a business in their community. In their community. in their community? What about black people that live in a majority white neighborhood? What about black people that live in the middle of nowhere? That's another meaningless word salad. It just sounds nice. So take out that, because that just sounds nice. Take out to start or grow a business, because that just sounds nice too. That doesn't like break it down or clear anything up. And they're not necessarily entrepreneurs if we don't know what their business status is. They're potential entrepreneurs. They could already be entrepreneurs. We don't know. So what this really says is Kamala Harris's opportunity agenda for black men will provide 1 million handouts to black people. Now, there's also the little term "and others." Well, what does that mean, "and others"? Does that mean to everybody? Because in the text of your tweet, it says, "As president, I will make sure black men can build wealth." Everyone's okay with this. We'll call out racism when Bubba Wallace has a little string that's tied like a noose on his garage door. We'll call out racism when it comes to Aunt Jemima on a syrup bottle. We'll call out racism in the nuance of how many characters are chosen within a Disney franchise that happen to be of color. But this one, where you're straight up discriminating in favor of some people based on their skin tone and against other people based on their skin tone, and you're going to do it with tax dollars, everyone's just okay with that. We're not going to call that out. All you people who are so concerned about the racism in Charlottesville, oh my God, we got real racists, we got white supremacists, we got to get rid of all this racism. We can't be judging people based on the color of their skin. You're okay with this? You're not calling this out? Well, that tells me you don't really care about actual racism. If it only comes from white people, you're not worried about racism. If racism against white people is okay, you're not worried about racism. You just are anti-white. And what does that make you? That kind of makes you racist, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know if you really think white people are inferior, superior, or whatever, but when you're adopting policies that intentionally, overtly, in the headline, discriminate against white people, then you don't really have a problem with prejudice. On top of that, the other story I was going to start with before she tweeted this morning, this is what I thought I was going to start with yesterday when I left the WBAP mothership here. Kamala Harris has been caught plagiarizing. She has a book that came out in 2007, and over a dozen passages in her book. We have the comparison where they were lifted from other sources, and in one of them it's 2 paragraphs that are pretty long, and she added the word additional. That word was just thrown into the second paragraph, and that was her claim to, well, no, I didn't plagiarize that one. I added some words to that. You added one word to that, and what about the 11 other places where you plagiarized giant chunks? And I love this because there's a plagiarism hunter that caught her. Look at this guy. What did he do? I saw this on social media, and I didn't see it from a reputable source, so I may be wrong on this, and I'm usually hesitant to pass along rumors like this, but this sounds true. They're developing AI that can take people's work and compare it to all these other works, and with AI on the job, plagiarists you should be sweating bullets. You guys are all going to get caught if that works good. 800-288-9227. What do you think about Kamala Harris's opportunity agenda for black entrepreneurs? Shane in Dallas, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Well, I've got a question. Are we supposed to do a DNA test now to apply for a loan? I mean, if I don't look African American or black, but in my history, my DNA history says I'm like 0.1% African American. Does that mean I can get a loan now? Yeah,
that's I would have to use the school scholarship system as a comparison.
Yeah,
and this
exactly.
is just awful, because I don't think we should have any laws where you have to determine what your genetic makeup is or what's running through your veins. That's just icky to begin with. That's like when Hitler made his after the Kristallnacht, when he made all the anti-Jewish laws, he used the Democrats' segregation system as sort of the blueprint for how they would determine who is or isn't a Jew, because they couldn't do the one drop of blood thing, because that would eliminate too many people, including Hitler himself. But yeah, so for student loans, I had to look this up because I have a Hispanic grandfather. And so I was thinking, well, does that mean I can get like these loans that are for Hispanic people? And I can't, because that makes my mom half and that makes me 1/4. Now, if one of my parents was Hispanic and one of them was white, then I would qualify because I would be half. If both of my parents were half, they could be half Hispanic, half black, or half Hispanic, half white, and both of my parents were half, I would still qualify because that would make me half. And it just is icky as hell to have to do some sort of genetic test down my family tree. We got to determine my bloodline before I get my full complement of rights, before we find out if I'm eligible for this program. Bro, that's just wrong, Shane. And I'm surprised we've put up with it this long.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not right.
All right. Well, I appreciate your call, Shane. Thank you very much,
problem.
sir. If you want to be next, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I guess the question is, how racist does it have to be before someone goes, hey, this is a line too far? Coming up next, we're going to talk about mental health being affected by all the hype around the election. And I'd like to hear from you. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I got to tell you, I'm kind of enjoying having such a freaky, weird election season. I'm enjoying the narratives. I'm enjoying the coverage. I'm enjoying the debates. I'm enjoying all the social media stuff and the rumor mill and speculation and the rallies. Some people, I think they're genuinely stressing themselves out. Lee Richardson's back on the James Show from the Brain Performance Center. Do you have people coming to the Brain Performance Center needing some help with all of the mental weight they've been carrying about the election, Lee?
It's almost an event every 4 years when we have an election. So it's not just specific to this election. But I think this election is a little more stressful because, we didn't even know who was running for a while. And so this just created more uncertainty, more anxiety, more stress.
Well, so you don't think this is significantly worse than previous election cycles? Is that what I'm picking up?
Well, not in my office. It's not.
Good.
It's the same old every 4 years. And it's because of the impact that the politics has on our relationships with our friends and our family.
Yeah, I noticed, Lee, that I was doing some man on the street interviews last week, and people were answering every question easily except for who you voting for. Half of them said none your business.
Yeah. And I go for that philosophy. If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
But Lee, I was asking these people if they've ever done drugs before, and they were willing to admit to committing crimes before they were willing to tell a stranger their political preference.
Boy, that says a lot. That tells you how near and dear to their heart they hold that.
Right. And I think what you said is correct. Most people just want to avoid conflict with their immediate surroundings. And that really takes the fun out of politics when you have to be scared to even state your position.
Well, you're part of that 22% that are excited about it. And so it's not all bad. There's another 27% that are optimistic about it. So, yes, the anxiety, the stress, the fear is there. But for some people, it is exciting. Well,
I think for some people, there's people out there. My wife's kind of like this to a small magnitude. They just feel comfortable worrying, and whenever they actually solve one problem, they don't go, "Oh, good, I can be happy now." They go, "Oh, good, what can I worry about next?" And they're sort of a serial worrier. And if you're looking for an excuse, the election coverage will give you constant 24-hour reasons to worry.
Absolutely. And you can worry about something different every day with the election.
Right. Now, their assassination attempt, they're going after the kids. They're getting into healthcare. So what do you recommend for people who do feel a little anxious and they want to unload some of that stress?
I recommend they use balance. How much news do you watch? Don't go back to the pandemic where we kept it streaming 24/7. Watch a little bit and keep it in balance. And, disconnect from your social media. I think that is the biggest feeder for anxiety and stress. And focus on some healthy coping skills like exercise instead of maybe eating more or drinking more. And, if you're really that stressed out, you can always talk with a therapist.
Well, I have a different sort of prescription approach. And now yours is probably a little more academic and therapeutic, and mine's a little more carnal. I would say go out, see some live music. You can't check your social media. You can't watch the news when you're watching a band, right? But also I would say strongly recommend mixing in a heavy dose of alcohol, like probably so much you should Uber home. And so live music plus alcohol, if that doesn't at least disconnect you from stress and distract you for a couple hours, I don't know what will, but that's what works for me.
Well, and you're right. Distraction is a great way to unplug from all the stress.
All right, Lee Richardson, where can they find your work outside of WBAP?
You can find us online. We've got the good old-fashioned website, thebrainperformancecenter.com, thebrainperformanceinstitute.co, and I'm on LinkedIn, Lee Richardson.
All right, and for you people who are stressed out, relax. It's not that big of a deal. Thank you, Lee Richardson. I appreciate you being on the show again. Brain Performance Center. Coming up next, you're going to hear some examples from election past on why you should not be surprised Kamala Harris has been caught plagiarizing. It's baked into the Team Blue cake, especially the Biden-Harris cake. Examples coming up next. Your comments, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. This is The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Plagiarism scandal has reared its ugly head. And this isn't the first time the Biden-Harris ticket's been caught in plagiarism. In fact, Biden, his first run for president in 1987, was derailed by plagiarism. Now, there's a dozen passages that have been identified by some guy in Austria is a plagiarism hunter, which I thought was an interesting job. How does that pay well? What degree do you get to be a plagiarism hunter? I imagine in the future, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be held accountable for plagiarism as soon as we can perfect this whole AI idea. The fact that we can get some computer intelligence to look at a work and then see if an entire book has any passages that are listed from other sources. I mean, it's amazing that people get caught as much as they do now, but I can't wait to live in a world where all these people who've been doing it for all these years get busted, because I start to wonder how many people could live up to the scrutiny. Remember we had, was it this year? I think it was this year, earlier this year, maybe last year. It's within the last year that the president of Harvard had to step down over plagiarism concerns. And when I say plagiarism concerns, out of the dozen academic works that the lady published, every single one of them had a passage that was found to be plagiarized from another source. If I remember correctly, it was really bad. It was really bad. So Kamala Harris has about a dozen passages that have been identified in her book from 2007. Now, does that disqualify her for office? Absolutely not in my book. No pun intended, because, book plagiarism. But I think, especially younger people, you guys don't remember how bad the plagiarism was for Biden. In fact, we were all kind of floored when he ran again in 2008 with Barack Obama. Now, he got the floor wiped with his head in 2008 and eventually came on as the VP for Barack Obama. And we were surprised at that, considering how scandalous and dishonest his original campaign was in 1987. Let's just go back. Let's remind the people my age or older, and for the first time, some younger people are going to be hearing this. What happened to Biden and plagiarism in 1987?
Democratic presidential candidate Joseph Biden today faces a controversy. 3 weeks ago at a debate at the Iowa State Fair, he used phrases identical to those delivered by British Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock.
Biden seemed to be claiming Kinnock's vision and life as his own.
Why is it that my wife, who's sitting out there in the audience, is the first in her family to ever go to college?
Why is Gladys the first woman in her family in 1,000 generations to be able to get the university?
My ancestors who worked in the coal mines in northeast Pennsylvania don't come up after 12 hours and play football.
8 hours underground and then come up and play football.
It's because they didn't have a platform upon which to stand.
There was no platform upon which they could stand.
The notion that every thought or notion or idea you'd have to go back and find and attribute to someone, I think, is quite frankly ludicrous.
The problem here is that Senator Biden told his audience he'd just been thinking about these things, and he failed to give any credit at all to his famous British speechwriter.
Yeah, I was just thinking about these things, but it didn't stop there. Like, if that would be enough to derail most people, even if you do have the media on your side, it gets worse. We continue our journey through 1987 and the history of Biden plagiarism.
I should have said, to paraphrase Neil Kinnock, it's the only time I didn't, and all the times I've ever used it.
But CBS News found a tape of a second instance.
It reappeared in the New York Times with a new charge, that Biden had appropriated a famous litany from the late Robert Kennedy about what the gross national product cannot measure.
It cannot measure the health of our children,
The health of our children,
the quality of our education,
the quality of their education,
the joy of their play,
or the joy of their play.
Biden gave Kennedy no credit. He has also quoted or paraphrased John Kennedy, Hubert Humphrey, and British Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock, all without credit.
All right, now it's just getting funny, right? It doesn't stop there. There was some law school issues. Plagiarism comes up again on Biden, 1987.
Joseph Biden admitted today that he committed plagiarism when he was in law school. He said it was a mistake, but that it was unintentional.
He quoted 5 pages of someone else's work without proper citation.
I've done some dumb things.
5 pages.
And I'll do dumb things again.
He was given an F.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I've been dumb.
To the political community in Washington, it all seems of a piece. Plagiarism at law school, plagiarism on the stump.
The great communicator. Strike that. The great imitator.
Oh, man. See, now this is fantastic because this is why people in 2008 were like, you're running for president? Are you serious? You are running for president? And then, of course, when he got blown out of the water at the beginning of the primary season, we're like, okay, that's kind of what we expected. And then when Barack Obama put him on the ticket, we're slapping our forehead. This guy? You're putting this guy on the ticket. And then they resurrected him in 2020. This guy. And that's on top of the lies he had about his educational record. Oh,
Senator Joseph Biden may have more explaining to do. The new questions stem from taped remarks of Biden during an April campaign appearance in New Hampshire.
I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. Went back to law school and, in fact, ended up in the top half of my class. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only needed 123 credits.
Biden now concedes he did not graduate in the top half of his law school class, that he does not have 3 degrees from college, and that he was not named outstanding political science student in college.
Newsweek says Biden actually went to school on a half scholarship, ended up near the bottom of his class, and won only 1 degree, not 3.
Joe Biden ranked 76th in a class of 85 at the University of Syracuse Law School.
So, yeah, when you hear that Kamala Harris is in trouble for plagiarizing and someone says, are you surprised? You just say, no, I'd be more surprised if she hadn't been caught plagiarizing. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. For those of you who are trying to win the tickets, the trip to Las Vegas to see Motley Crue, I got a keyword for you. Text KICK right now to 95819. KICK. K-I-C-K to 95819. That'll give you another entry to win tickets to Vegas to see Motley Crue at the Park MGM. Prizes provided by Big Machine Rock and Live Nation. For a full list of contest rules, visit WBAP.com. Oh, and also a reminder, I'm going to be at the Texas State Fair one more time this Friday. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we're going to take a look at the early voting numbers on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, welcome back to The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. If you want to jump in and be a part of this conversation, which side's more fascist, Team Red or Team Blue, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. The reason why this is such an important the topic to dwell on for a second is because once we had that first assassination attempt back in July 13th, a lot of us thought, okay, well, it's time to tone down the rhetoric and all this Hitler talk and fascist talk. It's gone too far, and no one can deny the fact that it is making crazy people do things that they wouldn't normally do if they weren't incensed by all this sensational, over-the-top, and frankly false, slanderous rhetoric. So you're kind of hoping they would tap the brakes on that. Well, we had another close call. They're still not tapping the brakes on it. And my next guest coming up in about 15 minutes, Jeremy Rosenthal, is going to spell out whether or not we'd had another close call this weekend. But you've noticed that they haven't tapped the brakes on all this fascism talk. In fact, they're starting to smash the gas here now that the polls aren't working out and we're getting 3 weeks away from the election. Here's a couple of examples. Joy Reid, MSNBC. Trump's hate-filled fascist, yada, yada, yada. You're literally Hitler.
And they're doing it with violent, terrifying, and sometimes bizarre conspiracy theories that set the table for maybe armed resistance to a Kamala Harris win or mass acceptance of American fascism.
There it is. Yeah, that's right. Fascism. That's what's around the corner if you don't oppose Trump. Fascism, sure. Here's Jake Tapper, ABC.
Which comes out tomorrow. Trump's former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mr. Trump appointed himself, retired General Mark Milley, says, quote, he, meaning Trump, is the most dangerous person ever. Now I realize he's a total fascist. He is the most dangerous person to this country, unquote.
All right, so I love this. Most dangerous person ever? Really? That's it. Not Hitler, not Stalin, not Mao, not Genghis Khan, not Bin Laden, not Napoleon, Donald Trump. Sure, that's real believable.
Point of fact, Webster's defines fascism the following way. Quote, a populist political philosophy, movement, or that exalts nation and often race above the individual, that is associated with a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, and that is characterized by severe economic and social regimentation and by forcible suppression of opposition.
All right. I know you didn't commit that to memory, but I wrote out all 4 of the little points he was making there, the bullet points on what defines fascism. We'll go over it in just a second.
Unquote. You can be the judge as to whether General Milley's characterization sounds like with what Mr. Trump is proposing out there on the stump, live for everyone to hear.
That's right. You got to be scared, everybody. He's a fascist. They're running, and they tell you're running a campaign of fear. They're telling Trump's out there just scaring the crap out of everybody and running a campaign of hate and fear. And who's really running? You're saying Trump is the worst guy ever. He's going to bring in American fascism. It's going to be racist. It's going to be sexist. It's going to be bigoted. It's going to be homophobic. It's going to be transphobic. It's worst ever. But we're running on fear. You're running on fear. Is that your platform? Fear? Because we're saying some not nice things about old Kamala Harris, but we're not saying she's the worst person ever. We're saying she's a typical lefty, plagiarizes speeches, gives vapid answers, and just generally wants to grow government. Not she's literally Hitler. Now, I'm prepared for this, especially if you've been listening to the James Show, because we broke down on a few James shows earlier this year what fascism really is. And I brought you the lady, she is an Austrian immigrant to the United States who, when she was a kid, Hitler took over Austria, and she spelled out all of the big policy changes that were made. And tell me if this little montage, this little 1.5-minute clip here, if this sounds more like the policy preferences of Team Red or Team Blue from someone who saw actual fascism herself.
The first thing what happened, we had to carry national ID cards. The newspaper, before it hit the street, it was being censored by the government. Everybody was getting a guaranteed income from the government. In order to achieve that, they had to raise our taxes up to 70%. Those who were on the lower income level, they got subsidized housing, they got food stamps, they got heating fuel, and they got a certain amount of payment from the government for each child. Before Hitler, of course, the moms stayed home and they raised their families. But under socialism, if you are not in the workforce, you are called a parasite. So the moms were being put out into the workforce, so what happened to the children? Child care centers. It was all free for everybody. We even prayed in public school before class and after class. After the election, I walked into my classroom and the crucifix was gone. And she also said we would not have twice a week religious education anymore either. We were being told not to listen to our parents. They were just old-fashioned.
All right, that's enough there. She keeps going for another minute. Every single one of those policy preferences leans more blue than red. Does it not? Now let's go to the definition that Jake Tapper gave you. And in his own segment, he pointed out just a handful, 5 bullet points on what he uses or Webster uses to define fascism. Nation and race above the individual. Well, what's DEI? What's affirmative action? What is this morning tweet from Kamala Harris where she's going to give 1 million grants to black entrepreneurs? That's race above the individual. Centralized government is the next bullet point. Well, that's easy. Who's constantly seeking to nationalize and centralize major industries? The Obamacare and everything, the student loan industry. They already did that. Now, dictatorial leader was a bullet point, but really both parties, I think, are just about equally guilty on this one. No one's much more of a dictator than the other one. I don't like the executive orders, but both parties do it too much. So I'll give a push on that one. But the other two bullet points, economic and social regimentation, really? Economic and social regimentation, clearly more Team Blue than Team Red. Everything from Obamacare to vaccine mandates to bike paths to fake pronouns to plastic straws. They're always telling you what you can and can't do, what you should and shouldn't do. And other than abortion, I mean, that's the only thing Team Blue is a little more loosey-goosey on. And then the other one, forcible suppression of opposition. Gee, who spent more time in jail? The Black Lives Matter and Antifa rioters in Minneapolis and Portland and everywhere where they were burning buildings down? Or the January 6 guys who just loitered through Statuary Hall for about a half hour before they were asked kindly to leave? Which side's more fascist? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk with Jeremy Rosenthal from TexasDefenseFirm.com, get a lawyer in here to see if there really was another close call with an assassination attempt against former President Trump. Next on The James Show, I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.